The theme for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fuck the puppy.
No, this is the theme for this week.
Yeah. But also, I don't know. This
I'll
was
let you guys go. Go right.
I don't have 25 cents, but I will say I've not seen a lot of movies that made me sympathetic toward German Nazi soldiers, and this was two.
I had no idea to the degree that Saving Private Ryan ripped off the last third of it's from this movie.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense.
I was like, holy fucking shit. And then
a film school staple, this film.
I looked it up and like, well, I haven't found the exact like
smoking gun
reference, but it so obviously steals huge chunks from the end of this movie. I mean, I found
down to the pistol. You run out of machine gun bullets, and then it's just bang, bang.
No, it was just that there's that scene where they're waiting. You know, they can hear the tanks before they can see them, and just that. I mean, it's like shot after shot after shot. Like
it's
holy
the flip
shit!
side of the whole thing. I know, it's crazy.
I kept
appreciating.
When all those guys were fleeing on the bridge, I was like, go with them, jump on the truck.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes so long for that tank to finally appear. You hear it for so long before you see it.
What's weird is that they're out there defending that bridge, and almost nobody really wants them to be there. Their commanders don't want them to be there.
Yeah.
You know, the people in town don't want them to be there. It's like,
because they thought it was safe, right?
They thought it was safe. They put them there because they thought it was safe.
I know.
I do like the teacher going and begging on their behalf.
Yeah.
And like give them something to do, but don't put them out there to die because he expects them to run, and then they don't, and they die anyway because they're stupid.
Right.
They're just kids.
This is also almost like right out of Saving Private Ryan.
But this is also
it's Barry Pepper. And good for him.
Yeah, pretty much.
What a creative shot though for what, 59?
I mean, this movie
that must have been done with an optical printer.
It was optical effect. Yeah, I think.
I mean, I don't know about you. So between this and the other movie, like I did go look, and I mean, as it turns out, an enormous chunk of the fighting force of the German army by the end of the war was made up of kids who were like 12, 13, 14 fucking years old.
They were running out of guys.
And then also 60, 70
year
old
men.
60 and 70-year-olds.
Oh, this was the second.
They burned through everybody else.
They had a little sort of tanklet that you could put a child in that had a machine gun on it, and they just sort of pointed that at the Soviets and were like, "Go kill as many people as you can before you die."
Right,
organization
because they had the Hitler Youth Program. They had all these kids who completely they didn't know any better.
This is
so
the
they
last
put them straight in.
They had ROTC for fascism.
Yeah,
right.
Well, anyway, this is the last line for the German army, because this is the last. This is the way breaking their own recruiting rules by getting high school kids to go into uniform because they.
Although if you go back,
there's one
30 years, it's all quiet on the Western Front, which is the same sort of thing.
The same thing happens, but it goes back a little bit further. That if these aren't the last line of defense, the first one then was the Volkssturm. If citizens they just gave a bunch of Panzerfaust to, they like shoot anything that looks vaguely American that comes into town. And,
which, by the way, we should mention that
slaughtered.
They also made the Volks pistol specifically for that. Like there is,
that last iteration of Volkwine on the Western Front, by the way, was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was really
the first half, I felt like it was like, okay, like it took a while, but as soon as they got to the bridge, like I'm in 100%. Like that, it all really started clicking for me, and I had enough invested in those kids.
Sure.
A, tell them apart, and B, like know enough about their backstory to be, I mean,
I felt like the filmmaking was so strong throughout, though.
The acting,
that I was okay with the slow burn first half because I really think this director has a real command of this story and what and how he wanted to tell it. And developing these characters and not spending time doing things that are extraneous, just really getting
it was go. It was like the second half of the film was pretty well paced
and dealing with some very human emotions with these kids. I mean, really giving them adult-like sort of scenarios,
emotional lives.
Emotional lives. I mean, like the child with finding out his father has a lover. There's certain things that the other boy who's getting into girls for the first time, and the other boy's being jealous of him. There's so many great, real emotional scenarios for these characters.
And yet it all ends on the bridge because they all,
they can't wait to get to that. They cannot wait to help.
Yeah.
Well, and I know this is probably now whatever, but at the end when they're really under fire and they all start crying, I mean, it just broke my heart. They're calling for their mom, they're crying. Yep. The one kid shits himself. Like, it's so real. And it just astounds me that this movie was in 59.
Imagine if this was done like Private Ryan, though. Imagine it was like this bloody as fuck, like the other film we have right now. It's like it would have been it would have been almost unwatchable.
Well, and we'll get to Calling for Your Mommy a little bit later again.
Exactly.
This one, I think this film and the other one, to a certain extent, are asking an interesting question of the audience. At what point do we identify these guys as Nazis? At what point do we identify these guys as children? At what point do we identify these guys as victims?
Right. Absolutely, and that's why
that's a huge moral question. This film asks really well.
Both of these films, and I agree with Tad's helmet, but also it's more complex than that with these two pictures.
Yeah, for sure. This movie
aren't true ideologues the way I would define an ideologue. I mean, like, they've been indoctrinated because before their brains had even developed to the point where they have critical thought.
This is exactly what my point was. And when Tad said at the beginning, it's like, because they're stupid. It's like, if they were just stupid, this movie wouldn't have nearly the impact that it does. They're not stupid. They're kids. Yeah. They really don't know the stakes of what they're doing. They don't understand the difference between life and death and what that really means.
They draft 18-year-olds for a reason because they don't know.
You know what this movie made me think of, Scott? Was Taps. That movie from Martin and Sean Penn. They're in military academy, but it's the same thing. It's like, they believe something not because they've internalized it intellectually. They believe something because older men have told them to believe it.
Yeah.
They believe it, and they bought in so hard that they're willing to commit violence and die.
Well, until the bullets start flying in their direction, they don't even know what they signed up for.
Yeah.
Rather than understand what they're doing.
Yeah, they're not stupid. They're just very easily influenced.
You bring that film up because at some point the National Guard general comes up to those guys and says, "You know what you kids are doing? You know, you're going to get hurt or killed." And they're like, they didn't see it. They just didn't understand what was going on.
Well, we have to do this.
That's why they're stupid.
Come on. That's ridiculous.
There is a stupidity there for sure.
Yeah.
Whether the
characters are stupid. That all 16-year-old boys are fucking stupid.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a reason why you draft 18-year-olds to be in the wars.
They're right there.
Them through boot camp.
Yeah. They're old enough to brutalize.
You think about it, there's actually caveman reasons for that. This is going back to like, yeah. It's like you're young, you don't know how death is. I read something interesting, that reason that the boys don't have a realistic idea about mortality is because back in the caveman days, girls would have babies when they're like 12, 13, 14 and die a lot, right? And there's something about the survival instinct, the whole wiring says that made them unafraid of trying to get pregnant as many times as possible. And so they would not think about their mortality when they're like getting locked up, right? Because they knew that it killed every other person back then. It's
right.
So it's very,
I guess you have plenty of examples.
Yeah. Brain wiring is weird, and we are victims of our own brain wiring. And
and I don't know about, cultures are different, time periods are different. Mm-hmm. But when you're that age, most of us feel invincible to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
Like it's just you can't. You can't comprehend it. B, nothing much hurts you, at least physically. It's like the thought of mortality is just the last thing on your mind. It's not.
We all drove too fast and we drank too much. And we did the stupid.
You said last week about you said about Beau Travail. It says when you're 25 years old, you're basically unkillable. Basically.
Well, again, guys, I picked Beasts of No Nation a couple, like the first year we did.
Yeah.
And that's another
brutal movie.
Brutal movie, and those kids were even younger than these. Kids.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. These kids don't. A grown-up has told them to do something. They don't have the capacity for critical thought to question it, and so like off to the slaughter they go. And this is what we do to kids in war. I mean, in that same article that gave me a kind of the bigger picture of what percentage of the fighting force by the end of World War II on the German side was made up of kids and old men. then you keep scrolling and you see like this is a thing that's been going on for hundreds of years. Like at a certain point,
well, and it's and
the kids in there because they're not going to question it. They can hold a gun, they can point the gun, they can shoot the gun, and yeah, you're going to have about a 65% attrition rate, but the math still works out.
And in some ways, in some ways that's arguably an understatement, because there's another scene where that villager comes up while they're on the bridge and tells them to go away, and they pull a gun on him.
Yep.
And tell him to get lost. So it's like they're going even above and beyond.
They pull a gun on the guy who's going to blow the bridge up.
Yeah.
No, they shoot the guy who's
they shoot the guy.
I mean, that is pretty far gone as far as indoctrination goes.
But the way they make fun of the older gentleman when he leaves is very telling too.
Yeah.
It's like it's boy, there's so many boys being boys moments.
There's one boy. Movies. There's one boy who says maybe he knows something we don't, or worse.
Right. Yeah. There's one boy.
That's like the only time like someone's like, maybe we're wrong. And then it's just nope.
Shut up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no,
the one who lived has, another 50 years to think about it.
Yeah, right.
I read the one guy survived and talked about it.
My only notes on this thing it took a while to kind of get going. Okay. Some of the acting is uneven. I mean, like some of it's a bit histrionic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like maybe, and some of the younger actors, I mean, like some were better than others, but other than that, I mean, I thought this was solid.
Also, how hilarious were the American characters, the GIs? There was some line he said when he like, "What the heck are you doing here?"
Yeah, it was almost like an ESL moment. These guys are these the Germans who are speaking English. I think it's
but it was behind the tank. His line delivery was either a really bad actor or a really bad dub.
Yeah,
there's never been a worse.
All the Americans are dubbed.
Okay. There's never been a worse depiction of American characters from a foreign country than in Squid Game.
Oh yeah,
true. I did not know.
God,
worse or correct?
No, it's like someone told them. It's like someone who's never been to America but read about us described Americans to those directors and writers, and then they wrote the characters based on that.
So correct.
No, it's totally horrible. It's not correct at all.
Oh, well,
it's so
it's
bad.
The turnabout is fair play. We do that to other countries all the time.
We totally do. I'm not complaining about it. I just think it's actually hilarious.
I agree, actually.
But anyway, back to this film.
Yeah, like Tad has something to say. And
I'm waiting for the big spitball here. Hold on.
No, go, continue.
I think we're getting.
No, I mean, I thought it was good. I never heard of it. I was again. Really
I think this is better than good. I think this is
Spielberg owes this guy some money.
In 1959, how common were anti-war movies in 1959?
Given the year of this
in Europe,
the execution of this
in Europe, it was
like. Can you name another one in the same era? Because we have Paths of Glory. There's 2 years.
Which is 59.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
What was Ashes and Diamonds? I guess that's.
No, that makes sense.
That was great.
We did that. Like we've done a few on this show. Jim picked all of them. He should know.
It turns out that everyone looked around at all their dead friends and was like, actually, war is shit.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be aggrandizing this.
Whereas in America, basically in Hollywood, it took them up until the 60s and the early 70s. What with Vietnam to try.
Right. It wasn't until Vietnam. It wasn't until Vietnam that the
we had a conscience about it.
Yeah.
No,
you have the guys who are supposed to blow the bridge up, and they take shelter in a house that's close to the bridge, and they're like, "Those kids are going to get us all killed."
Yeah.
We just go home.
Oh God, I know.
Well, I know this progressed at least in Western and American cinema. Like war films went from this to comedies for like a decade. It was like
Kelly's Hero.
I was actually very surprised how much damage these kids did.
We watched Autofocus on this show.
Yeah. Even like 1, 2, 3 is kind of like a comedy about the war. It's just the after.
Kind of.
Yeah. But
1, 2, 3 is a comedy, but it's not about the war. Okay. Like there are jokes about the war in it.
Dude, everybody who worked at that Coke place was an SS agent, or at least it was. It's like really weird, especially looking at this. It's like, well, I also the thing that Jim posted earlier about that general getting hit with the field marshal's baton. It's like a lot of these guys got forgiven 10 years after this was over. And
it wasn't 10. It wasn't 10 years. It was days.
Like immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. We killed we sent like 50 people to The Hague to die,
right?
And everyone else got forgiven.
Right.
Like all of these people were just because they fought the Russians. And what were we afraid of? The Russians.
Yep.
So
Right.
it was like, oh, if you were a general in the war, you know about fighting the Russians. So welcome to NATO.
Right.
Like it.
That's why we got. That's why we got our good Germans like von Braun and such like that. So
Oh yes,
Yeah, 'cause
the good Germans,
Yeah.
the ones who only used Jewish slave labor to make weapons of just purely destruction of civilians.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
All right. Well, anybody else got to have a block here? Did Jim, Tad?
Yeah, Jim, you picked it.
yeah,
yeah,
my
as
block is
I
I don't fucking care about these people. Like I'm tired of fucking movies that are trying to make me feel things about the people who voted in or worked for the Nazis. Like I don't care that they're 16 or 17 or 18 years old. You know what's happening in Russia right now? 16, 17, 18 year olds are burning down fucking recruitment centers. Like you're not I'm sorry, you're not a child at that age. You have an understanding of right and wrong. Like fight back. Like
But you said you
the teacher fights back. Like people.
But you said that you see a lot of this. I personally have not seen a lot of films from either of these perspectives, just personally.
Yeah. That Tad's laid down a ethical statement. That's fine. Move on. Jim, do you have a corner?
I'm happy that it roused some feelings.
It did well. This film has engaged a lively debate. I'll give you that. But
the name of the show is.
It is.
What?
I'm happy to go thumbs and hang this one up for the next one. What do you think?
Well, the next one's the same
Well, I
thing.
hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I think this is a great film.
I think this is one of the more important anti-war films I've ever seen.